Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for the new screensavers is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. The new Screensavers is brought to you by Wealthfront. Wealthfront is a low-cost automated investment service that is the most sophisticated way for you to invest your money. Whether you've got millions or you're just starting out, visit wealthfront.com/NSS to sign up and get your free personalized investment portfolio. That's wealthfront.com/NSS. And by Whole Home. Whole Home is more than just a smart thermostat. It's a home energy controller that helps you save money and displays your energy use in real time. For a 30% discount, visit wholehome.com/twit. And by Braintree. Looking to set up payments for your business? Braintree gives your app or website a payment solution that accepts just about every payment method with one easy integration. Plus, Braintree will give you the first $50,000 in transactions fee-free. To learn more, visit BraintreePayments.com/NSS.
We talked to Danny Boyle about the new Steve Jobs movie, learn how to make a speaker in a jar, and it's time to go back to the present? Live from the Twit Brick House in downtown Petaluma, it's the new Screensaver!
Yay!
All you have to do is get in that DeLorean. We'll add 1.21 gigawatts of power, and you're going to 2015, Marty. 2015. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the new Screensavers. I'm Doc E. Brown. It didn't fool you? All right. And this is actually, it's Back to the Future week, isn't it?
Yes, October 21st, Wednesday, 2015, Back to the Future Day.
I'll show you because I have a clip.
We're descending toward Hill Valley, California at 4:29 p.m. on Wednesday, October 21st, 2015.
2015? You mean we're in the future?
Yes, Marty, you're in the future. Actually, the amazing thing is the Cubs are going to win the World Series. We have flying cars, and you can use your Mr. Fusion with just garbage into time travel.
And hoverboards.
And hoverboards,
Yes.
lady. Now, Megan is wearing self-tying sneakers.
I am wearing
Very
self-tying
impressive.
shoes, yes, and this jacket, which he wears later in the film.
That's the one that inflates, right?
Yeah, no, but
Megan
it's a different
Maroney,
movie.
Leo Laporte, despite, I know we fooled you, despite her costumes.
And thank you for not making me play the part of the girlfriend.
She has such a tiny role.
I
don't
know.
think
Thank
it'd be-
you.
She like passes out in a dumpster and we don't see her for 3 hours. I think this is not, I think we want to.
I could do that, but
No,
thanks for not
no.
asking me to.
No, and I want to thank our staff for dressing me so fantastically. We have a great show for you, actually. Coming up, we're going to celebrate Back to the Future Week. You're going to talk to Bob Gale, the guy who produced all 3 movies.
Yes, he's amazing. He has so many stories, and he thinks actually that people from the future are walking among us now.
I think you're right, because we're all traveling. And Doc Brown, you know, when he made his time machine, he used a DeLorean. Marty asked him, why such a fancy car? Because if you're going to go to the future, you got to go in style, Marty. Well, in fact, we're going to talk to the new CEO of DeLorean. They're back, baby. And we'll find out what their plans are. We're also going to talk to the kitchen tinkerer. Are you ready for a trash amp?
I love making things out of
It's
trash.
kind of crazy. He's going to show us how to build a speaker in a mason jar. Apparently, it sounds pretty good. We'll find out. Also, Danny Boyle joins us. Now, this is going to be fun. You remember the movie Steve Jobs? It's going to open nationwide in just a couple of weeks, October 23rd. I saw a screening of it. I was really kind of, mixed feelings about it. I'm sure it's a wonderful movie. Aaron Sorkin's maybe his best work. Danny Boyle's a great director. We love him for Trainspotting and Slumdog Millionaire. But I was a little bit upset as somebody who knew many of the characters in the movie. It didn't feel real to me. So I'll ask Danny Boyle whether it's a biopic or what. That's coming up, and of course we're going to answer your trickiest tech questions. But first, let's talk about what happened this week in the news.
Lots of news this week. Just yesterday, it was the big Google Books announcement.
Tell me about this, because you covered this on Tech News Tonight, and I'm trying to get my head around this. Google, 10 years ago almost, started digitizing books, old books, new books, books still in copyright, for a Google book search that they wanted to do. They didn't bother asking permission. They said, you know what, well, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. So we're just going to start doing it. Now, I think it was really a big part of Google's mission to make all of the world's information accessible on the internet. But the Authors Guild and the publishers did not, as you might guess. They fought back and forth. The court battles have been raging for years. And in fact, Google created, and then the Authors Guild came to a settlement. Actually, Google and the publishers came to a settlement in which they would put hundreds of millions of dollars in a fund. That settlement then has been challenged by the Authors Guild. It's been in court for a while. There was one judgment. Now there's a second judgment. This is a higher court. What did they decide?
It says that book scanning is legal, that Google can do this. So the first settlement was actually pushed forward by the courts. Like, Google wanted to settle and the Authors Guild wanted to settle, but they pushed forward, and the authors would have gotten a lot of money, and Google would have had this disappear. But now it is better for everyone that it went further and that they settled, that they won now.
At issue are what we call orphan works, works that nobody cares about, but that are technically in copyright. Anything that came out after Mickey Mouse is in copyright, because Disney never wants Mickey Mouse to go out of copyright. So every time that is at risk, they go to Congress. Last time was the Sonny Bono Copyright Extension Act, and they extend copyright longer. So anything pre-1927 is in the public domain, anything post-1927 is copyrighted. But a lot of that stuff nobody cares about. Books written in 1934 about the rain in Spain, and nobody cares, yet because they're in copyright, Google has been prevented from doing anything with this. This allows Google to move forward. But part of the reason the judges agreed was because it wasn't going to be like they were only going to use snippets, right?
Right. They're not. It's not like you could go and say, like, I want to read Andy Weir's The Martian, but I don't feel like paying for it. I'm going to go and, you know, download it and just read it for free because now everything is free. That's not. It's just parts of the book.
Snippets.
It's snippets.
Searchable snippets.
So what they were, it was akin to saying that, like, the card catalog was not legal.
Right.
It's what Google was doing was information about books. And partly why it was fair use is Google can do with this what any normal person can't do. Like, I don't know if you've ever used Ngrams. That's the website.
Love that site.
Yeah, you can put in like Leo Laporte, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and get like a graph.
And that's a Google site based on their Google
on
books.
the information. So it's, you can see where these these references in these books have been over the years. It's amazing information that any person could never do. So I'm glad that this.
So we don't have our normal counsel is not here, Denise Howell. But what's your sense of it? Is it over now? Did the Authors Guild lose, or are they going to continue to fight it all the way up to the Supreme Court?
I don't. It was just late yesterday that it happened. I talked to Joe Mullins from Ars Technica. Joe Mullen, he was my guide, and he does, he does a lot of this stuff. And he really said this is good for everyone. He didn't know if the Authors Guild was going to move forward, but at this point, it's good for the future, because really, I mean, having this information is going to further research and just further our knowledge. And Google doesn't do this for money. What he said is it's going to be interesting whether Google puts ads on this, because right now Google Books has no ads, and they don't make money like Amazon does. If you go to a Google Book and look at it and then you buy it, Google's not making any money off of that. So
well, let's hope they keep it that way.
Yeah.
It is their mission to organize all the world's information and make it available through the Google search. So I think this is a good thing. I agree with you. I don't think authors are going to lose. Nobody's going to say, oh, I don't have to buy your book because I read a snippet on the internet. In fact, if anything, maybe more of these books will be sold because of that. So, well, let's hope this is the end of it. This thing's been dragging on forever. Here's a story that surprised me, and it's just breaking, and I don't know what the upshot's going to be, but according to NBC News, the FAA, and this is not confirmed yet, is about to rule that all drone purchases will have to be registered with the Department of Transportation. Buy a drone, you'll be in the Department of Transportation's list. This, of course, is because of concern that people are using drones to buzz, the World Cup or the U.S. tennis or just be annoying or spying on their friends. It's just a database. I think if they tried to do this to gun owners, there might be kind of a hue and a cry. We'll see what happens. But it's not official yet, but this is a scoop from NBC News. Hello, drones.
It is really interesting. I mean, drones are the next thing. I mean, it's so many different issues. We love them. We love to play with them. Yes, sometimes they get in the way of firefighters and police. They also do a lot of good, so it's interesting. And they also really, like, no one wants a drone flying over their backyard and violating their privacy, so there's that issue, too. There's just so many issues in with this. When I heard there was a drone registry, my first thought was that if I ever get married again, like that's totally what my registry is going to look like.
I want to register for a drone. That's the wrong kind of registry.
That's not what the drone, not for your baby registry. No,
We're going to start the bumper sticker though. When drones are outlawed, only outlaws will have drones. I think everybody should be driving around like that. Was there anything else we wanted to talk about?
Well, there was the Tesla over-the-air update that I found really interesting.
Wow.
I don't have a Tesla. You're on the waiting list.
I
for
cannot
a Tesla.
wait. Turns out I'm on the waiting list for the first autonomous vehicle.
Yeah, so these were things that were inside the Tesla already, and all they had to do was update them. So I'm not really sure. There's autopilot and auto steer. And
I think you pay for this. I think it's $2,500 extra. There's a video. Do we have the video of a reporter from Jalopnik riding in one of these autonomous vehicles in rush hour traffic in Manhattan? And as you might imagine, he's terrified. He's taken his hands off the wheel. He's kind of watching as the car accelerates, decelerates, changes lanes, and avoids accidents. At one point, he says, I had to do this. He grabs the wheel and puts on the brakes. He said it probably would have stopped, but I just didn't trust it.
Well, I think once you grab the wheel, then that's all you have to do. It's not like it's gonna, go all crazy.
See, okay, as somebody who has in fact crashed an autonomous vehicle, remember when I was on the Ford test track, and they were showing me the auto park feature, and they said, okay, just take your hands off the wheel and let her park. What they didn't tell me is that you actually have to, there's the reporter, and you could see he's just terrified.
So nervous.
You actually have to take your hands off the wheel, but then you have to apply the brakes once you've parked. So I rolled into the vehicle behind me, which was filled with test engineers laughing their heads off. I have pre-ordered the Tesla X. It won't be out. It's out now, but I won't be able to get mine until October of next year. But I'm hoping by then that some of this will actually be part of the Tesla firmware, because I love this idea. Go ahead, show him driving and show a little bit of his audio, because the guy is like,
there it goes, and it stops. I mean, being here in a Tesla Model S P90D with ludicrous mode, which is incredibly fun, but the fact that it could do all this itself, and you could see on here the vehicle in front of you that's following, and you can see where that is in its lane.
The thing that's wild to me is he actually is able to change his lanes. It actually sees the...
Oh my gosh, it's changing lanes on its own. Oh my gosh, it's changing lanes.
Would that scare you?
Yes. But we get into elevators every day all the time. Like, that should be scary. We're in planes that self-drive.
I hit the brake there, but I didn't think I need to. I think that was me getting nervous, and the car didn't have a problem.
I can't wait.
Well, it's this transition from to the autonomous driving that's dangerous.
Because you're driving with humans.
But you still have to be paying attention, and that's what they found with the Google test driving cars. That handing it over to an engineer who's like, oh well, I was just asleep. I'm sorry, you needed me to catch the car when it started to roll away. So it's like you still have to be paying attention.
I am going to, though. I'm going to tell you right now. When I get my autonomous vehicle, I'm wearing this outfit. And I'm going, I'm not driving! And we'll see what happens.
Right, because anyone who's afraid of autonomous cars, that will totally make them feel...
Marty, in the future, we don't have to drive. Notice, even in Back to the Future, they're still driving.
And you're used to those, Doc is used to the doors that open. The Gull Wing is the DeLorean, but then
these are Falcon
Wing is the Tesla.
Because they're hinged like this.
Got it.
And so, I don't want doors that go like this. I want doors that go like this. Apparently, we can go on and on. When I get the car next year sometime, we'll do a story on it.
Okay.
All right. Now, let's do our first. Are you ready?
I think so.
Call for help. Ben's on the line from Charlotte, North Carolina. Hello, Ben.
Hello, Leo and Megan.
How are things in 2015? Oh, yeah, I'm wearing my Doc Martin, Doc Brown shoes.
Doc Brown.
Looking good there. Looking good.
Yeah, and she's got her hoverboard.
Yep.
So
And my sports almanac for the real fans of Back to the Future too.
what?
Somehow I think I missed those. When did they come out?
The
2015
hoverboards,
in
they
the
just
future.
Came out. You can get this one on Amazon for the low price of $39.99.
I'm
definitely
just
get
thrilled
one.
that the Cubbies are going to win the World Series. That's to me what's most
That's right.
exciting. So what can we do for you?
Okay, so I have multiple cloud accounts like Apple iCloud, Google Drive, Dropbox, Microsoft OneDrive, and so far I'm on the free versions, so storage can be limited. I wanted to know if there's any type of dashboard that I could run on my Windows PC or maybe an iPhone app that I could utilize to track the available storage on all of those cloud accounts.
That's a great idea. If you made that, I would buy it. There are a few programs out there that are designed to aggregate all the different cloud services together and give you access to information on a variety of clouds as if it's on a single cloud. I presume those would also kind of give you information about how much storage is available on them. And one of the nice things it would do, of course, is take all those little 2 gigabyte or 5 gigabyte chunks and merge them. The only problem we found is that iCloud, what a surprise, is Apple doesn't let you access them. So everything but iCloud, here's one called Otixo that will allow you to access all your online files with a single login. You can share them across services. So it aggregates all of them together. And you see it does all of the services, Amazon Cloud and Dropbox and Box.com. It does Google Drive and Evernote. Flickr now gives you 1 terabyte of storage for free for your photos. Picasa, which is Google's photos thing. Even Amazon S3, some advanced stuff. But look, I see OneDrive. I don't see iCloud in here. And this is not a surprise because, as you know, Apple really likes to silo stuff. And they're going to say, oh, for security reasons, we make sure that nobody can do this. Even you. Well, that maybe it's for security, maybe it's because they just don't want you to be able to do what you want to do.
But security is an issue. That was my first question when I saw this question. Do you really want to hand over all those passwords? Because you'd have to have your login name, and they would have to have your password in order to know how much you had left, how much storage space. And there was an app called YoVivo that I tried to demo, and it'll let you have a dashboard just like that with all of your accounts except for iCloud. But then I just thought, well, I felt weird entering all my username and passwords for all of these, even though places said it was safe. That's a lot to hand over, and I don't know. It doesn't really feel safe to me to hand over all my cloud accounts to someone.
You have to weigh security and convenience as always. And computing, let's not forget, is a trust exercise. I mean, even if you're just on iCloud, you're trusting that Apple is not going to look at your stuff. Apple will say, well, we can't look at your stuff, but you really do have to trust them, especially when it's not open source. You don't know what that program is doing. Maybe Apple, I trust Apple, but Apple could conceivably be saying, oh no, we don't know what your password is, and absolutely know what your password is, and there's no way to verify that. So there's always a trust exercise, and you're right, when you bring in another person and now you're bringing multiple clouds together, the trust has to expand. This same thing came up when LastPass was sold to LogMeIn last week. It's like, well, I trust LastPass, I know them, but I don't know these LogMeIn guys. Now they have access to all my credentials. So it's absolutely true, the cloud requires trust, but on the other hand, modern computing requires the cloud, right? I mean, even your email's in the cloud. So that's a decision everybody has to make. And everybody falls on a different end of the spectrum. I frankly don't care one bit. They can have everything of mine. If they want to look at my pictures, look at my pictures.
You already show them anyway.
I show them anyway. I don't have any privacy anyway. But that gives me the ultimate inconvenience, things like Otixo or one of these cloud sharing services. So the good news is yes. The bad news is accept iCloud.
Right, makes sense. Yeah, keep up the good work. Thank you very much.
Hey, it's great to talk to you, Ben. Thank you so much.
Thanks for sending in the question.
Yeah, it's a great question. And thank you and Karsten both for doing the research on that one and looking at all these different services. There are actually quite a few of them. You've tried OwnCloud, right?
I have not. That's the roll your own cloud that you can do.
It's kind of
I haven't
open
tried
source.
it. No, but that is one that does include iCloud and all the other services. But yeah, it's an open source. Have you tried it?
I haven't. I've been meaning to. And of course, when it's open source, at least you have the opportunity to look at what they're doing. You may not understand it, and most of us don't code well enough to look at the source code and know what's going on. But the thinking is, well, somebody must be looking at that and verifying it. At least you have a better chance with open source of knowing exactly what they're doing. But almost all the solutions that you're integrating with are closed source proprietary solutions. So OwnCloud would be another one to look at. OwnCloud, OWNCLOUD.org. O-R-G. Hey, thank you, Ben. You want to be on the show? We need more questions. Here's how.
Need tech help? The new screensavers are here with answers. Email your tech questions to newscreensavers@twit.tv.
More screensavers coming up in just a little bit. We've got a tip from Jason Calacanis. You're going to interview the producer and co-writer of all 3 Back to the Future movies. You know what I realized as I was preparing for today? I saw the costume that I was going to be wearing, and I said, I don't remember this costume. Then I realized I've never seen Back to the Future 2 or 3.
That is a travesty. You were
shocking.
I saw all of them in the movie theater, maybe more than 3 times each. And then I've watched them again with my children. They are movies that hold up through the years.
I watched the first one last night, and you know what? It is a great. I'd seen that before, and it really is a great movie. It's a lot of fun. So I'll be watching tonight.
That's your homework.
Remember, Wednesday is the future arrives, October 21st, 2015. We're going to get flying cars. I'm so excited. Cold fusion will be a reality just a few days from now.
Everyone's going to, because in the Back to the Future 2, no one has their phone in their face walking around. That's the one difference that's really...
I don't know how they're going to fix that.
Yeah, they better fix that. More people need to be running into each other because they're looking at their iPhones.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we've got Bob Gale, your interview with Bob Gale. Megan Maroney is here, host of Tech News Tonight, iOS Today, i5 for the iPhone. My old friend from the Screensavers.
Yep.
We've known each other for 15 years.
Yes.
That was the weird thing about watching that Back to the Future. I'm watching the original 1985 movie and realizing, oh, we are in the future now.
We are, yeah, 30 years.
That happened fast.
It did. It did happen fast. And we're doing the same thing, dressing up in costumes, talking about technology.
It has not changed. You look exactly the same. Me, well, that's another story.
Your hair is a little grayer than it used to be, but...
Our show today brought to you by Wealthfront. Here's something very futuristic. In the past, if you wanted to save for your future, whether it's, and by the way, your future it's coming fast, a home for you, maybe you don't have a house yet, you want to save up for that mortgage or the down payment, or perhaps retirement, or just a great big family vacation. The smartest thing to do, of course, not to put this in just a bank account where you're getting nothing, but you need to invest it, right? The question is how? And geeks like us, we often say, well, that's no problem. I know exactly what to do. I'm going to read 20 books, and then I'm going to manage my investments. And, of course, that's what I did. And 3 years later, I forgot. I wonder how it's doing. Or you could do the opposite. You get somebody to do it for you, and they're going to take 1% to 3% of what you've got under management each and every year, plus hidden fees for transactions and changes. Wealthfront's something else. It makes it easy for any of us to access world-class, long-term investment management. You'll start today with a minimum of merely $500. There's the books. By the way, go back, Brian. Those are the books I read. And I said, I can do this myself. Guess what? You don't have to. Burton Malkiel and Charles Ellis are among the team managing your money at wealthfront.com. A Random Walk Down Wall Street was an amazing book. It made me think, yes, I know how to do this. They do it all for you. They reinvest, they rebalance. They even do stuff that's hard to do, like tax loss harvesting and direct indexing, and it's all done in software. They've given this great team has given the instructions to the software and exactly how to do it, and the software is running 24/7 to maximize your return. And it's doing it all, get this, for less than 0.25% a year. Software's cheap. You don't have to pay it a lot. It just works all the time on your behalf. We're talking less than $5 to manage a $30,000 account. Go ahead and ask your wealth manager how you can do that. You can't. And even if you could, they don't do the stuff Wealthfront does. And there's never any additional charges for any of their services. No extra fees tacked on. No wonder Wealthfront has grown 20 times in the last 2 years. They're now managing over $2.6 billion in assets. And I want you to put a little money in there. You don't have to go crazy. $500 is the minimum. Take a look. You can even go for free to wealthfront.com/NSS and see how they would invest the money. Get your personalized portfolio. You'll answer a few questions about your time frame, your risk aversion, things like that, and then you can see exactly what they would do with your money. That's the nice thing about Wealthfront. Completely transparent. It's better than your broker. You see every trade that happens right there on your phone. You can see exactly what's happening with your money. And just for Twit listeners, if you sign up to invest, Wealthfront's going to manage that first $15,000 free of charge forever. Forever. Up to $15,000 free of charge forever. Wait a minute. Wealthfront.com/NSS. At least read the page. Figure out what they're up to. I think you'll be very impressed. I was. Wealthfront.com/NSS. For compliance purposes, I have to tell you, Wealthfront Incorporated is an SEC-registered investment advisor. Brokerage services are offered through Wealthfront Brokerage Corporation, member FINRA and SIPC. This is not a solicitation to buy or sell securities. Investing in securities involves risks, and there is the possibility of losing money. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Please visit wealthfront.com to read their full disclosure. We're going to go back to the future with a man who produced all 3 movies. And this is wild. The DeLorean's back. We're going to talk to the CEO of the new DeLorean. But first, Jason Calacanis explains why you must have, I bet you don't, I don't either, a family email address.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Calacanis. I'm an internet entrepreneur and angel investor. You can follow me on Twitter, I'm just Jason, or on Instagram, where I'm also just Jason. Yes, I'm showing off. I have premium social media handles. Doesn't really mean all that much. One of the things I like to do is make my home life really easy by having a family email address. We have a family email address for our family, and we sign up for all of our services now with this family email address. And then I set that family email address on Gmail to forward to everybody. And what this has done is created a very simple, lightweight way for us to put our Amazon email, our Netflix, our Spotify, our Rhapsody, and we sign up for all these services. We sign up with the family email, and then we create email addresses, and then we share those with a password manager called LastPass. LastPass is a very easy to use password manager, so you don't have all the family fights over who changed the password, what's the password. Just look it up in LastPass. Just sign in automatically. And if the password changes, everybody gets an email. Hey, the password just changed. Okay, why did we change it? Or even better, if you're ordering food through a service like Instacart or Sprig or Bento or on-demand services, Domino's Pizza, whatever your family eats, everybody just got an email alert. The Domino's is 20 minutes away. The Domino's is here. You get the idea. A family email address, lightweight, simple, easy, and with a password manager like LastPass becomes an amazing life hack that stops a lot of family fighting.
That's a great idea.
It is.
I got to do that. Lisa and I already share passwords via LastPass, but we got to make like a laportefamily@gmail.com address. What a great idea.
Yeah.
Jason, by the way, is going to be on Twit on Sunday, and along with Peter Rojas, right? From Engadget, and who else? And Ian Thompson from the Register. We love all 3. That's 3 wise asses. Include me. So it's going to be a great show. Will you be wearing that costume? I will not, but I am going to be wearing VR helmet because before the show, tune in early, like 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern on Sunday tomorrow, because we're going to be playing Keep Talking or The Bomb Will Explode. I'm going to be in a...
And nobody explodes.
And nobody explodes. I'm going to be wearing the headset. I see the bomb. We've got manuals created for everybody.
Printed out.
The
old-fashioned
They have to look up, okay, now click the red wire. No, the yellow wire. Well, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
And hopefully nobody will get hurt. That's tomorrow. Get there early for Twit. All right, tell us about Bob Gale.
Well, Bob Gale is the writer-director of all 3 of the Back to the Future movies, and leading up to...
Robert Zemeckis is the director.
With Robert Zemeckis.
Oh, he worked with him as a producer.
Did I say director?
Yeah.
He's the writer-producer.
Got it.
And Bob Zemeckis, also writer with Bob Gale. And he's busy these weeks leading up to Back to the Future Day, but he was willing, because I am willing to dress like this, he was willing to sit down with me, and I talked to him yesterday. Let's watch that.
Have fun.
October 21st, 2015 is Back to the Future Day, the day that Marty McFly and Doc Brown traveled into the future, where our shoes lace automatically and we all get to ride hoverboards. Joining me today is one of the men who created that future world. Bob Gale is the writer and producer of the Back to the Future films. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
So one of the many things I love about these movies is that I loved them when I was a 12-year-old. My 12-year-old daughter loves them now. They lasted so long. There's comedy, there's adventure, romance, of course. science fiction. Let's talk a little bit about the science in the film. How accurate was the flux capacitor?
Well, everybody knows that if you have a working flux capacitor, you can travel through time. It's been demonstrated over and over again. The time travelers are here now, and you just don't recognize them because they have been prepared for their trip to 2015.
So in Back to the Future Part 2, Marty visits, when he visits 2015, he sees that the Cubs have won the World Series. Now the Cubs are they're pretty much headed to the 2015 World Series, we believe, and we think they're favored to win. What was your reaction when you heard this news?
I've been laughing about this from the beginning of the season. I mean, I started, even in spring training, people were, when they hired Joe Maddon last year, actually, I started to think, whoa, the Cubs are really smart to hire Joe Maddon. And then I start following some of these rookie guys that they've got on the team, and they're really, really good. And I'm thinking, well, what do you know? They're going to have a decent team this year.
So of all the things that you thought up for the sequel, what future ideas were you most excited about? And were there any disappointments in how things have actually turned out?
Well, there were things that we predicted that we didn't expect we would have, like flying cars. We didn't really expect that we would have them. We didn't really expect that we would have cold fusion. That is one thing that I wish we did have. That would be, a world-changing thing for everybody to have limitless free energy. So who knows whether we'll ever have that. Drones. Now that's really interesting because we really kind of thought of that as a joke, but when Griff and his gang crashed through the courthouse at the end of the hoverboard chase, and you see the USA Today drone come in and photograph it, every drone has cameras in it. So that turned out to be pretty accurate, and we really weren't thinking that would come true. The coolest one, I think, is hoverboards, because here's something that nobody even thought of when we made the movie. And people saw the movie and they decided, how do I invent that? How can we actually make that? And it sort of became a challenge for people to say, I want to have a working hoverboard by the year 2015. And we got two of them. We've got the Lexus one, and then we've got Hendo up in Northern California, Los Gatos. And I happened to be there about a week ago, and I got to ride their Hendo 1.0 hoverboard. So I can say I rode a hoverboard in October 2015, and on the 21st, they are unveiling hoverboard 2.0. So I'm looking forward to that.
So do you have any predictions for 30 years from now?
Yes, of course I do. How accurate will they be? Well, for one thing, the Cubs will win the World Series in 2045. Actually, one prediction that I think is going to be pretty accurate, because it's based on stuff that's going on right now. I think that we will have advances in medical technology that will give us something akin to, say, Google MD, where people will have a device in their homes, or you'll go to a clinic, you'll put your thumb on it, you can get a little pinprick for your blood test, it'll do a retinal scan, and you'll get an instant diagnosis of your health. I mean, we're kind of getting that already with Fitbit. This will be far more comprehensive, and this will be a really good thing because I predict that we'll have a doctor shortage. I don't think enough people are going to medical school, and this will be a really good, accurate way to diagnose people with metadata, compare your vital signs with those of millions and millions of other people, and we'll have more accurate medical diagnosis of what ails you, and better ways to catch things early on, and we'll have a healthier population that will live longer. Another prediction that's already coming true, people will have a lot less stuff. That's already happening. You don't need so much stuff. With the sharing economy, with Uber, with City Bike, if you live in a city, you don't need a car and you don't need a bicycle. You can easily use Uber to get around, and you can easily rent a bike and get around that way. And one other thing, because privacy seems to be pretty much going away, people are going to have a lot less shame about the things that they do. You got pictures of me being drunk, naked, running down the street. Go ahead, post them. I did it. You probably did it too. I'm not going to be embarrassed by that. And the way that we deal with that stuff as not being embarrassed will mean that it doesn't have the capability of shaming us anymore. And that will be the human race's defense mechanism to a world without privacy.
That's really interesting. So the Cubs and the end of owning things and the end of shame. Those are your predictions.
Exactly. Those are,
all of that
Google
sounds
MD.
good. Oh, yes, and Google MD. So IDW is releasing a new Back to the Future 5-part comic book series. The first issues come out Wednesday, October 21st, to coincide with the Back to the Future Day. Tell us about your involvement and the stories you're going to explore.
Well, these are not new time-traveling adventures. The reason that the Back to the Future series still works, the reason why your kids still like it, is because these are movies about characters. People love these characters. Everything is firmly rooted in character. So the focus of this series is to explore facets of our characters. Yes, it's funny. Yes, it's rated PG. It's family entertainment. So the first issue recounts the story of how Doc and Marty first met. It's something people wondered about. How did these guys first meet? There's 2 stories in every issue. There's a longer story and a shorter one. The second story tells about something that Bob Zemeckis and I had always imagined in creating our fictional biography of Doc Brown, is that he worked on the Manhattan Project. So the second story tells how Doc ended up working on the Manhattan Project. So these stories are going to explore facets of the characters. Is there a little bit of time traveling? Yeah, or fantasy time traveling, whatever. We have enough of those type of stories that I think can last for more than 5 issues. And if the reception is good, I'm sure IDW will say, let's keep it going.
Well, Bob Gale, thank you so much for joining us. Bob Gale with Robert Zemeckis was the writer and the producer of all of the Back to the Future films. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Take care.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
Bye-bye.
He's not a stranger to comics. I know he worked on Spider-Man and Daredevil and a lot of other, and Batman even, but other comic books. You know, another prediction people don't remember from the movie, but actually came true: the return of the fax machine
Right.
in 2015.
Right.
I'm glad it's back. I think this is for you. No, I don't.
No. Is it?
Who is this?
That's an interesting way to tell me that,
Yeah,
Leo.
this is for you. No, you don't work for Cusco, I hope. So one of the things that was highly featured in all 3 movies, of course, is Doc Brown's amazing time machine. When Marty says, "Doc, why'd you use such a fancy car?" He says, "Because if you're going to travel back in time, you ought to do it in style." It's the DeLorean. The DeLorean lives. Steve Wynn joins us. Not the Steve Wynn casino mogul. That's another Steve Wynn. Steve Wynn, the Liverpudlian, who has been for a long time now keeping the DeLorean alive. Steve, it's great to talk to you, and I love your sweatshirt.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Thanks for inviting me to join you guys this afternoon also.
Oh, we're thrilled. What got you involved? I mean, we should make this clear that you have acquired the name, parts, and other parts of the DeLorean Motor Company, the old DeLorean Motor Company. This is not affiliated with, but you've been maintaining DeLoreans for DeLorean owners for some time, I know.
Yes, that's right. I'm actually an English and French car mechanic by trade, and I came to the States in 1980. Yeah, obviously the car came out in 81, and I was actually in LA at that time, and DeLoreans came about, and nobody wanted to fix them, so I just basically started from there.
What was your fascination with this car?
Just look at it, you know, it's the stainless steel body, the gull wing doors. You know, they started with a clean sheet of paper, you know, and they just wanted to do something completely different. You know, even the whole story of the factory and the fact that in 28 months, they went from a green field to a factory. At the same time, they developed a car, they developed a dealer network, you know, and everything that goes with putting a whole organization together like that, which at that time nobody had ever done it so fast, and since then it's never been done and probably could never be done again.
And of course, the stainless steel construction helps with the flux dispersal.
There you go.
Very important. I'm told that I could go to you and buy, in effect, a new DeLorean.
not quite a new DeLorean. We actually take a donor car and then we strip it down and then we remanufacture it with all the components that we have in our facility. When we bought all the remaining inventory from when the DeLorean went bankrupt, we have about enough components to maybe put together 300 or so cars.
Oh, wow. How much would it cost? That's what you're going to ask, right?
It's a sliding scale depending on equipment, you know, because these days people want them somewhat bespoke. They like more power. They like a better entertainment system than what we had in the 80s, of course. So probably 70 to 90,000, really, depending on how you equip it.
How much was a DeLorean in 1981?
27.5.
Which was probably close to 80,000 in 1981 dollars.
I think so. Yeah. It was quite expensive. It was obviously more expensive than a Corvette, a little bit less than a 911, and obviously less than the 308, which was the car, you know, the other car of the time.
Right. You know, it would be a great electric vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we did one of those a few years ago. We did a proof of concept electric DeLorean, which the response for it was tremendous. We were a bit nervous doing it, you know, because obviously when you're dealing with collectors and purists and stuff like that, we thought we would offend people. But really, it went down really good, and it was a real nice project to do. We loved driving it. It was so much fun. Unfortunately, once we went beyond the proof of concept to try and produce such a thing for a small company like us, we just don't have the resources. And we tried to get a technology partner, but nobody took the bait, unfortunately.
Somebody's got to call Elon. That would be an awesome vehicle.
That would be.
With a flux capacitor and everything. And I think I could go into the future. So is there a chance that we'll see a new DeLorean at any point in the future?
Yeah, you know, we don't know what's in the future. Obviously, a company like us, we don't have the resources to do it. But, you know, the brand is thriving, the interest is there, and we just have to wait and see, you know.
Now, by the way, our chat room tells me that $27,500 would be $71,985 today. So essentially,
not bad.
Yeah, you're right in there. Now that DeLorean we're looking at is beautiful. That stainless steel is shiny. That's actually looks like Doc Brown's DeLorean because I see the Mr. Fusion in the back. Is that in your shop?
Yeah, that's in my shop. I just shot that before. Actually, that's a time machine replica that we have here.
Look at that.
And actually, if any of your viewers are interested, that car is available. They could come here on October the 21st and drive out in a time machine.
I am interested in that. I wasn't going to ask how much it cost. I was asking we should get one for the show and test it.
Look, it's got a flux capacitor.
So do they all come with a Mr. Fusion or just that one?
Just that one.
Okay.
But I tell you, you know, that car is just a trip to drive. I'm a car guy, and I've driven every kind of sports car that you can imagine and everything that's cool out there. But you drive that car, and it is nuts. People are just, you know. It's actually dangerous because people are virtually driving into you to try and take pictures. And every time you're at the light, they're tapping on the window. What's going on here? What is it? You know.
So cool. Oh man, if you wore this outfit, I'm telling you,
carried this
Stephen, you might really, you might attract some attention.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I see old DeLoreans now in the stainless steel finish, is there a way to keep that nice and shiny? I look at that car, it looks so beautiful.
It's really simple, actually. You know, people are always scared of it, thinking that they're going to damage it, and really, it is stainless steel that's scratched, and we have like a Scotch pad, an abrasive pad that basically you just rub the pads down the side of it, and you know, like go through a car washer with brushes. It's great. It
a little Brillo and you're set.
You can't use Brillo. Because the iron, you know, but a synthetic fiber, sure, no problem.
Pad, and it just cleans up.
Exactly.
Because I see that DeLorean, it's so shiny, it's so beautiful. I love stainless steel as a material. So it's easy to clean. Good, that's good to know.
Yes.
You're tempting me now.
Okay.
I might send back that Tesla and
or just get both.
Or one of each.
You know, well, we've got gull-wing doors. You don't have to have Falcon doors.
Yeah.
You know, ours don't go limp.
They're so cool. That's so great. You're in Humble, Texas. Is there a website people can go to if they would like to get it Back to the Future? I think you could drive to county fairs. You would be a huge hit.
Yeah, DeLorean.com.
Easy enough. DeLorean.com. Stephen, it's great to talk to you. Stephen Wynn, he is keeping the DeLorean dream alive in Humble, Texas. Where did you get that sweatshirt, though? I gotta ask.
I know, yeah. It just somehow appeared in the mail a couple of days ago, and I thought, seeing as it arrived here, I better display it for you.
I'm grateful.
One thing I should maybe mention to you guys, that I know you guys are huge fans of Ernest Cline, the author.
We are, of course.
Yeah.
Ready Player One, yeah.
And he's a client of ours, and we just had his DeLorean in just a couple of weeks ago, and his is really different. You know, you think, you know, like a time machine, is it? Well, Ernie's his is a combination between a time machine, a Ghostbuster car, and Knight Rider all in one.
I'm looking right now at Ernie Cline's souped up science fiction DeLorean. That is so awesome. Wow, that is so awesome. And he can even use a remote control with that? No. Better not. Look at, he has a flux capacitor in his as well.
Yeah, and see what he gave me when he came in here. This is his new book.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Armada is an awesome book.
I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but seeing as I'm a Brit, he gave me the English version, which is a little bit different, which is very cool, isn't it?
That's fantastic. Hey, it's so great to talk to you, Stephen. Obviously, the people who are DeLorean fanatics are fanatical about it, and I'm sure they're very grateful to you for keeping the parts in stock, for keeping their cars running, and keeping the dream alive. Thank you so much, Stephen.
Thanks, guys.
Stephen Wynn, DeLorean.com. Now, we're going to talk about junk amps, trash amps, in just a little bit. Might even play some music. You know what? In my Mr. Fusion, it'll take anything that's organic. First, Chris Marquardt with a tip on how to take the best photos of the eyes. It's the crazy eyes.
Hey, it's Chris Marquardt again with another photo tip. You can find out more about me at discoverthetopfloor.com. I want to talk about people photography and especially about the eyes. You know, people look so much better in pictures when their eyes are slightly bigger than you usually have them. And one way to get that is by having them slightly lower their face. Watch the area where the iris crosses the lower lid. When the iris comes out of that and you have a little sliver of white between the iris and the lower lid, that's when the eyes look really big and really good. So try that in the mirror, look in the mirror and try it out for yourself. That was it for today.
Thank you, Chris Marquardt. He's our regular on the Tech Guy radio show. He's our photographic expert, and it's nice to have him with some tips on the new screensavers. What are you laughing at? You know, in the future, plastic ties will be all the rage. Sometime around 2015, this is going to be everywhere. Everywhere, I'm telling you. Before we talk to Adam Wegener from Trash Amps, he's going to show us how he builds them. I want to tell you a little bit about my new thermostat, a smart thermostat from Whole Home, HOLHOM. It's really much more than a thermostat. It comes from Energate, a leading supplier of utility-grade interactive energy management solutions. They're secure, they're reliable, and finally, it's more than a thermostat, a home energy controller that will help you save money on all of your energy. It's got a built-in teaching thermostat and energy display, easy to replace your existing thermostat, connects to your Wi-Fi, you use your smartphone to configure it. It also connects to all Zigbee-enabled smart meters. Now, you probably have one. Utilities put them in most of the homes in the country, I think, over the last few years. And if you've got a Zigbee-enabled smart meter, now you're going to get real-time electrical usage in your whole home. In your whole home. And you can go to the Whole Home app, and they'll ask questions like, what time do you get up on a typical day? And then they'll put you in control. You never have to look at the manual. It works with 95% of all heat pumps and conventional heating and cooling systems. And by using it, you can start minimizing your heating and cooling energy costs. You'll know immediately how much you're saving, both in dollars and kilowatt hours. And that little bar at the bottom of your whole home will let you know when you're using too much juice. It shows your current electric consumption and spending in dollars per hour. Just like a car's speedometer shows miles per hour, Whole Home shows you energy dollars per hour. I tell you, this is when we said, you know what, we're going solar. When it immediately became obvious, you know. The LEDs on the front respond to price changes too, so it knows how much you're paying for your energy. So you immediately know what the cost of your electricity is, so that you can, for instance, avoid energy-intensive chores during the high peak cost hours. It's more than a smart thermostat. It's hard to describe. It's the whole home. Save energy and money. See your energy use in real time. Go to wholehome, HOLHOM.com/twit. Get your code and receive an exclusive 30% limited time discount. That's a good deal. HOLHOM.com/twit. And we thank them so much for their support of the new Screensavers show. All right, I'm so excited about this. We saw this online, the trash amps. Adam Wegener is here. He's a maker, right?
That's right.
Fair to call you a maker?
Yes.
Where'd you get the idea for trash amps?
Yeah, Trash Amps is a company that I started with some friends in college. A friend of mine got a kit to build your own guitar amplifier using an Altoids container.
Oh yeah, I've seen those.
And so lots of people have done that. So a friend of mine built something like that, and then we were looking around our house saying, you could really put these electronics inside of anything. And so we said, you know, how about a beer can or a soda can? And so it was at that point that we kind of realized there's really no limit to what you could turn a speaker into, and there's probably a lot of things that we're throwing away that could be reused for a new purpose.
So these are the parts that would be involved. It's not that, are the acoustic capabilities of a mason jar important to this project, or is it just something to hold the speaker?
It kind of serves as both, and so we've experimented with a lot of different containers.
Different things sound different.
Yep, soda cans, mason jars, wood, all different sorts of materials, but the jar has a nice heft to it and a weight to it. It has a good rigidity to it. It also allows you to see the speaker inside of it, but every speaker requires a speaker chamber that kind of focuses the music, and so most companies will manufacture a black plastic box in China or something like that, and so we're trying to say, what are things around your house that you might already have that you could use as the enclosure of the speaker rather than always manufacturing something new.
And is this a kit that I can buy?
Yep, this is a kit. Actually, we're sold out right now because it's been more popular than I thought.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's nice.
But we're doing some pre-order right now, so you can order it on our website, trashamps.com.
Show us the parts involved here.
Okay. So when you order a mason jar speaker kit, this is kind of everything you're going to get. You get a little baggie with all the parts, and so this is a great soldering project.
There is some soldering involved.
Right.
Okay.
So we're doing a lot with schools, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, STEM programs, things like that.
You have I think there's a soldering merit badge now, isn't there?
Yep.
Yeah. That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah, my kids were here earlier. They immediately gravitated toward the soldering, and they wanted to know about that. Is it directed towards kids mostly, or do you think it's anyone that wants to be a maker?
Pretty much anyone that wants to be a maker. And I think what we found is we first started building the speakers and selling them. But then we found that why don't we give people the same experience that we had when we built the
Can
Altoids.
I still buy an assembled speaker, or do I?
Yeah, so you can buy them assembled, and you can also buy a kit. But the kits seem to be really popular, and what I found is that there's not a lot of great soldering projects out there that are good for beginners, and then when you're finished, you have something you can actually use. A lot of times it's a light that blinks on and off, but that's not something cool that you're going to feel proud of or brag to your family and friends about. So
you could listen to your MP3 player on this, or you could use it as a guitar amp, right? You
that's
can do
right.
either.
Yep.
It takes unbalanced inputs.
Yeah, it serves both purposes.
And how does it sound?
Well, should I put one together real quick
You can do it
while
right
we're
now?
talking?
Sure.
Yeah.
How many solders are involved to do this?
So there's about 20 solder joints, and so after you get all the parts, after you put it together, it looks like this. And so soldering iron and solder, it's basically like gluing the parts together, but since it's metal, it also conducts electricity. And so after you solder the circuit board, that might take like 10 to 20 minutes.
Yep.
For an expert, it could just be like 5 minutes.
But again, a great project for kids.
Yeah. Carson said his 7-year-old just picked it up immediately and started soldering away.
Do Milo and Huck solder?
No, they don't solder. Yeah, they have soldered. We don't let them solder. Not you see
By
how they are.
Let's have some parental supervision.
Yeah, so parental supervision. But yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. Like a kid as young as 7
I think it'd be a fun
started
project
putting
with
in the
them.
screws just like that. He said.
Yeah. So after you do the soldering, there's just some simple assembly. You know, you need a screwdriver, Phillips head screwdriver, and you just kind of. There's really good instructions online at the top of our page. It says kit instructions, and so there's step-by-step with the photo for every step. But it's really good to get people working with their hands. A lot of people have never built something that's actually useful to them, and so that's a cool experience.
It is a neat feeling, isn't it? You've actually been able to create something and get some use out of it.
And everybody needs speakers. It's true.
Everybody needs speakers, more speakers all the time. You know, you put a Chromecast audio on this thing, and now you got an internet-enabled radio.
That's true,
Yeah. The speakers are powered by the batteries. That's sufficient power?
That's right, yep.
So I don't have to plug it into the wall?
Nope.
And I can use AAAs?
Yep, and we also have a rechargeable battery upgrade.
Like a lithium ion?
Yep, so that's this right here.
Oh, cool.
So you can recharge it in any USB port, and then...
Oh, I like that. That's kind of a
You
cool...
can put this on instead of the AAA and plug it in. Yep, so that way you never have to buy batteries anymore.
Love that.
How much does the kit cost? Are there different levels?
Yeah, it's between $30 and $40 usually.
Mason jar provided?
You can order it either with the jar or without, but we actually offer a shipping discount. And what's one of the benefits of using a mason jar is that a lot of people have them around their home.
They're heavy. You don't want to ship that.
Right, so it increases the shipping weight by more than double. So that's
you
kind
can
of
go
another...
to a grocery store and buy a ball jar, and there's no, you don't have to modify the jar because you just take the metal top out. That's a separate piece. And you just
ready
put it
to hear
right on.
this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now let's put her
So
together.
This goes in here.
Look, it's like Back to the Future with that iPod.
Back to the past. Look at that. All right, now I'm really curious how this sounds. Oh, there's even a switch that switches back and forth between an MP3 player
off,
and unbalanced
guitar.
Look, it even
MP3.
works. Isn't that a great
Hopefully
feeling
it'll
when
play
you solder
music.
something? You turn it on and the light comes on. You just feel like, wow, I am really the boss.
Okay. I must have, it came unplugged. Sorry.
Can you make one eventually?
Making, you gotta do everything
making
right.
is debugging. This is called debugging.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, look at that. You know, it sounds a lot better in the
So
jar.
you can hear, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little thin outside of it, and it just comes alive in the jar. Well, I see.
Yeah.
That is.
Actually, that sounds great.
It does.
Holy cow. And people will be amazed when you bring that to school.
Yeah.
And then they'll arrest you for making a bomb out of a mason jar. That is awesome. It's not just mason jars. I see
That's
a
right.
gas can.
Yeah, we have
What
a
do you
lot of
got
different
here?
things.
These are
So
all
we
fun. Look at
started doing soda
Mug root beer?
can and beer can speakers. So you can choose your own can, and we invented
it's
the
an
speaker
insert.
that fits
Nice.
inside.
Beer cans in the classroom. Great idea.
Great idea. Yeah.
We did a project with Del Monte Foods in
that's
San
hysterical.
Francisco, and so we invented a custom speaker that fits inside of any tin can.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, if you're listening to Atlanta Rhythm Section, you'd want the sliced peaches.
We've done some work
Got
with
Black
different,
Eyed Peas if you want to listen to the Black Eyed Peas. Yeah.
different like corporate sponsors and stuff.
Oh, that's fun.
So
Yahoo
they'll buy
made some
they'll buy a
purple-
bunch. We
We
did
need to
a
mason jars.
quit mason
thing
jar
with
speakers.
Mountain Dew.
This is the
and-
one I want.
Yeah, so this one is it's a concept, so it's a work in progress, but it's all about just looking around and saying, what are all the things that could have a new use that we haven't tried yet? And so my hope is that kids will maybe do a project like this, and that would spawn their interest in engineering, in upcycling, and trying to make cool things happen for the future.
Such a great idea. What's the website?
So it's www.trashamps.com.
Simple enough.
Yeah.
And Adam Wegener is the trash amp man.
That's right.
You know what? That sounds surprisingly good. That's the only. I think the name trash amp implies that it's going to sound trashy.
Yeah.
It sounds great.
It does
Thank
sound
you.
great. Yeah.
I want stereo trash amps.
Yeah.
Thank you, Adam. Really cool.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, more of your burning questions, but first a little help from little Bobby Heron, our home fidelity guy. He has to get you some more pixels.
Hi, my name is Robert Heron, and I'm a home theater expert, and you can follow me on Twitter at Robert Heron. One of my biggest pet peeves for TVs that come right out of the box is that they're not showing you every video pixel for the content you're watching. They're sacrificing detail, particularly around the edges of the screen, and there's a way to get it back that's really easy, especially when you're watching HD content. Now, you gotta grab the remote, and you're looking for a button called Picture Size, or you can dig into some of the menus. Hopefully it's just a separate individual remote button to control this, but otherwise dig into the picture settings and look for picture size. Generally for HD TVs, they're all set to something called 16:9. That sounds like it should be the right setting. However, generally speaking, that's not the setting that's going to show you every video pixel. You want to look for something called Just Scan or Dot by Dot. Those will actually make sure that with whatever video source you're looking at, it's actually showing you every video pixel and not what they call overscanning the picture beyond the border of the screen itself. This results in more picture detail, and it allows you to have a better viewing experience. So grab that remote, hit the picture size button, get it off 16:9, go for that dot by dot, just scan, or screen fit mode. It's the way to go.
More pixels! More pixels! I want 1.21 gigawatts of pixels!
Heavy.
Somebody tuned in and said, why is Leo dressed so odd? Nothing about Megan?
This
Nothing?
is the style. I am so cutting edge when it comes to fashion that everyone will be wearing this now.
Let's do a call for help. On the line now from Burlington, Washington, Noel. Actually, it looks like he's walking around the park. Hi, Noel.
How's it going?
Where are you?
I'm currently in Vancouver, Washington right now, up in Vancouver, British Columbia right now.
Oh, nice.
I'm over in Stanley Park.
Wait a minute. It looks like he's wearing a Seattle Seahawks cap. That must be an error. That must be a mistake, some kind of mistake being made here. I told him explicitly there'll be no Seahawks fans on this show.
We'll make an exception.
I am wearing red and gold. You notice the.
Yes, you are.
To my great shame at this point. Hey, what can we do for you, Noel?
Okay, so I have tinnitus in my right ear, and I got earlier this year. And I was wondering if there's like a good hearing aid app that can also double as an app that will play music in the background. Because I usually use my earphones when I'm out and about, also when I'm at work as well. So is there anything that you would suggest for such an app?
Sure.
If there's one that exists.
Is the hearing, do you work in industrial or with loud noise? How did you lose the...
loud noises. The tinnitus was kicked in by inner ear infection.
Ah, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Although there's a lot of us, I have tinnitus too. It's a permanent ringing in the ears, and I think it's estimated as much as a quarter of the population have some ringing in the ears. It's nerve damage, and it doesn't go away, and it could drive you crazy, but eventually you get used to it. And I've had it almost my whole life because I used to sit in big rock concerts and sit right next to the speakers, and so. In fact, I did go to an audiologist because I wanted my hearing tested, and he said, you know, it's getting worse in your right ear. I said, oh no, what does that mean? He said, well, you don't need hearing aids right now. You could probably, are people complaining that, yeah, my wife says I'm not listening to her. And he said, well, maybe you want to get hearing aids. And so what I wanted to do, I thought if I'm going to get hearing aids is get something high tech. So I'm going to show you what I have, and then we're going to show you a couple of other choices. But there's some information I want to give you about this before you kind of jump in. First of all, hearing aids are very expensive. Don't be afraid. You need them. It's really annoying for the friends and family in your life when you can't hear them. The nice thing is they're very small. You can hardly see this. This is the battery is in the back part, and this is from Starkey. They're very modern. And then this goes in your ear. By the time you've got this in your ear, it's almost invisible. And what's great about these is modern hearing. In the past, hearing aids were just really a microphone, an amplifier, and a speaker in your ear. You'd get ringing, you'd get feedback. But modern hearing aids are using computer technology. And one of the reasons I went with these Starkeys, is because they have Bluetooth LE built into them. And Android or iPhone, you can actually connect them up and control them via your iPhone. So I'm going to launch the TrueLink app on my iPhone. We'll see if I can show you how this works. First, I need to turn these on because we want to pair them up to my phone. As soon as they're turned on, you see I just, the right one was turned on, the left one is now booting up. You let's see, where can I put this so you can see it? I'll put it right here. How's that? Is that a good shot? You can see I can control them, but more than that, this has GPS. There you go. Both of them are now. I can turn them up. I can turn them down. I can turn them off if I want. But I can also personalize them by location. So I can say, for instance, a movie theater or a concert, it's a different sound profile than it would be at say at work or in the car. Notice this can also be a microphone. I think this is what you were asking. One of the things that's really cool about these is anything that comes through the phone I can hear in my hearing aids. So phone calls, I actually hear the audio in my hearing aids. I still have to talk to the phone's microphone, but I can hear the audio in the hearing aids. I can listen to books and music. And as you can see, I could turn this into a microphone. If I'm in a lecture and I'm worried I'm not going to be able to hear the lecture, I just put the iPhone up on the podium or closer to the speaker, and I'll be able to hear because he'll be amplified into my ears. That's the good news. But let me tell you about the bad news. You asked about listening to music. Hearing aids are not designed for full frequency reproduction. I thought they were till I got one. They're merely designed to reinforce the frequencies you don't hear anymore, which tends to be, as you get older, the higher frequencies, the voice frequencies. These do all sorts of interesting things. They take higher voices, children and women, they pitch it down into a better area of hearing. They amplify those sounds. They don't amplify bass. They really can't. They're tiny little speakers, and they don't give you a full musical sound in your ears. So what you're really doing, these are really tuned to make voice more intelligible, and that's the solution that hearing aids provide. You know, I'm a little disappointed. I kind of thought maybe I was going to suddenly regain perfect hearing, that it would correct where I've lost hearing, and suddenly I'd have super high fidelity hearing. It doesn't do that. It's really for your voice. Now, we have some other choices that might help a little bit better. There are some, for instance, that would allow you to have a microphone that's feeding the iPhone, that's then feeding hearing headphones that are plugged into the headphone jack, and headphones would be more full fidelity. So there certainly are apps that will allow you to have a microphone that goes into your ears. But that's kind of ungainly. That's kind of going backwards to the old days where, remember Grandpa used to have his hearing aids in his pocket and there'd be a microphone there and a wire going to his ear? Yeah. That's how it used to work, and that's kind of what you're talking about, is going back to those days. I do absolutely, I have to say, you know, I'm not that old. You know, it's perhaps a little bit embarrassing to say, well, I got to get hearing aids. But you know what? I highly encourage you, if you've got hearing loss, and you can have it for a lot of reasons. It could be infection, could be because you work in an industrial environment, you don't protect your ears. I wouldn't ever hesitate to get these. It can make such a difference in your ability to hear what's going on. And you know what's great? I can drive down the road with my hearing aids in and listen to a book, and no one knows I'm not listening to them. That's cool.
That is. Now, so does health insurance pay for hearing aids? Like if you have a good plan and you have tinnitus?
It should, I would guess. You know, I mean, that you got to inquire with your health insurance. They're not cheap. These were $6,500. That's a very expensive purchase. But if you can get insurance and some help, I would think that would make a big difference. We talked about Resounds, also do something similar. But these are Starkeys, S-T-A-R-K-E-Y, and they're the Halo hearing aid. It comes with the app, the TrueLink app. Works better on the iPhone than it does on Android. The iPhone has a special driver for them. If you go into accessibility on the iPhone, you can actually turn on a setting that says pair with your hearing aids, and then you can hear everything that comes out of the iPhone on the hearing aids. It's a really great stealth way to listen to phone calls, because you can talk to a phone call like this, but you're actually hearing them amplified into your ears. It can really improve your experience. If you're having a hard time hearing, it's worth looking into. And yes, see if your health insurance will pay for it. Any other questions?
Yeah, sure will. No, that's pretty much about it. You pretty much covered most of what I need to know.
Good, yeah. I tell you what, I did not know anything about this, and so I was really glad I went through the process. I asked some friends, but ultimately going to a good audiologist is a great idea, because they can tell you what your loss is and what they can do to make it better. And a good audiologist will answer all your questions, and it's worth doing. I have tinnitus too, and I tell you what, when I've got my hearing aids in, everything's working fine. I don't notice it. Everything's fabulous. I can hear what people are saying. It's great for the movies. Watching TV, you're going to like it. Hey, thank you. It's great to talk to you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Take care, Noel. You want to be on the show? You want to ask a question? Is that what you want? Well, watch this then.
Need tech help? The new screensavers are here with answers. Email your tech questions to newscreensavers@twit.tv.
Coming up in just a bit, we're going to talk to the director. We got a lot of directors and movies people on. The new Steve Jobs movie's coming out October 23rd nationwide. It's already out in a few cities. Danny Boyle, one of the great, all-time great directors.
Slumdog Millionaire.
Slumdog Millionaire. He's going to join us. I talked to him earlier this week. I think you'll be interested. But first, can I mention our fine sponsor, BraintreePayments.com. I love Braintree. In fact, I'm willing to bet you love Braintree because I bet you've used Braintree. What you say what? No, because if you've ever used Uber, you've used Braintree. Ever used Lyft, you've used Braintree. You know, when two competitors use the same payment solution, it's got to be good. Ever use Airbnb or Hotel Tonight? If you've ever used GitHub, you've used Braintree. That's the payment back end for all of those companies and thousands more. Braintree Payments. If you're a mobile app developer, you shouldn't be doing this code yourself. Let the experts do it. And with 10 lines of code, you can integrate Braintree Payments in and start accepting everything. Credit cards, PayPal, Venmo, Android Pay, Apple Pay, even Bitcoin through Coinbase. The best thing about this is if something new comes along, you know, Android Pay just launched a few weeks ago. All you had to do as a Braintree user, go into your Braintree control panel, check the box. It's in your app. It's that simple. They also, of course, prevent fraud. They have great fraud protection. They give you the best in-class mobile checkout experience. That means you'll see fewer abandoned shopping carts. I can go on and on. Here's what I want you to do. Just visit BraintreePayments.com/NSS. Play with the sandbox. You'll be able to experience what it's like to integrate it. It works with everything, Node.js, JavaScript, PHP, Perl, Python, Ruby, you know, everything that you use. Fast payouts, continuous support. They're ready to help you make your way from your first dollar to your billionth dollar. BraintreePayments.com/NSS. It's what they call a full stack payment solution, and you'll call it a miracle. We love them. By the way, your first $50,000 in transactions fee-free. You've used it. You're using it all the time, probably. Now put it in your app. BraintreePayments.com/NSS. So I was very lucky. I got to go to a screening of the Steve Jobs movie. Are you interested in it?
I am interested in it. I love the Walter Isaacson biography that it's not based on. Is that what they're saying?
Okay, so let me make this clear.
Okay, it's not. I'm not going to get that.
So Aaron Sorkin. Who doesn't love Aaron Sorkin? West Wing, right? Greatest thing ever. He also did The Social Network. Maybe not completely fair to Mark Zuckerberg and the Facebook team, but it was a fun movie. He's a great writer. His dialogue is brilliant. He says, I read the book. I talked to a lot of people, including many of the people who were played in the movie. But then I had to write a movie, and it wasn't exactly from the book. It's many of the incidents in the book, but it's very much fictionalized and imagined. Before I give you my review, let's take a look at the interview I did earlier this week with its director, Danny Boyle.
First of all, thrilled to meet you. I'm a big fan.
Oh, thank you.
Love your movies. And I loved this movie, but as a lot of people who were fans of Steve Jobs, and I know there was a lot of controversy around this movie, it's not, and you've said this again and again, and I know Aaron Sorkin said it again, it's not a biopic.
No, definitely not. That was one of the most exciting things about it, I thought, was that he devised this, well, he'd come up with this idea, which it appears incredibly reductive, to just use 3 scenes, you know, 3 launches, the 40 minutes before he goes on stage. Because it's like, I find biopics impossible, personally. There are so many facts. There's so many, and it's particularly with a controversial figure, there's so many disputed facts, and facts which you're meant to rely on, of course, kind of end up withering in your hands when you check them. And there's so much like that. I'd much prefer that it's the kind of Shakespearean approach, which is you take a historical figure, usually a very powerful one, and take some basic elements of them. You don't slander them. You don't kind of invent stuff that isn't completely unreasonable. You know, it doesn't say Steve is an alcoholic or anything like that. It just goes from what we know, from everything that we know about him. And Aaron did a lot of research with the people that you see in the film and others who knew him very well. Can we imagine this? Imagine that this was what made him. This is where he came. This is what came out of him. And I would argue that there's as much truth in this as there is in a factual documentary. But then I'm a dramatist, so I would approve of this. I think you get closer like this, personally.
It's probably the case that Richard III's family wouldn't have been thrilled about Shakespeare's treatment of him. So
I thought you might say something like that. No, that's fair enough, actually. Yeah, and obviously there's not. And Richard III doesn't have a huge legal department to track. So we probably, you're probably right.
But this film was controversial even before you joined. What was it that attracted you to it?
It's the boldness of the approach.
Yeah.
That was the one thing. It was the fact that it's a big problem depicting geniuses, because especially ones in this world, because what you're going to do, you're going to stare at a computer screen all day, you're going to watch somebody doing algorithms, what you're going to do, and what he does, Sorkin, is he does it through something that we all possess, which is language.
Yes.
And something that actors are best at. So he gives them the tools to give you a sense of the speed of this man's mind, the restlessness of his mind, and of all the people in it, actually, because they're all the people that he works with, that he meets, having these scenes with, including his daughter, that they're all equally capable as him, They may not be have his ferocity of drive, but they are his equal in many ways. And hence you get great scenes between them.
They're almost a Greek chorus. I mean, you're right. It has a very theatrical feel to it. Would have made a fabulous play.
It would. I mean, you could do it as the theatre, but it's not like a filmed play, though.
No.
What we try to do is to actually, because it's set backstage, you have this metaphor that is literally behind the scenes, which means that you're going to strip him bare. It's all these people naked in a way because it's not in public. The public is just beyond the other side of the screen. So that's a useful metaphor for it. But it's meant to be the joy of theatre as well, and these different theatrical spaces that we use, and how much the energy you can gain from containing within these boxes, because theatres are like boxes. There's many different parts of them, but they're basically an interior space with very little daylight where people are trapped inside. And it's what you can create by trapping this man's energy in there and his desire to, through the stage in front of him, beam out like a laser beam, change to the world, how much you can, the joy you can get out of this repressed energy, this force field of energy. It's like a steady state nuclear explosion that's kind of ready to go off, really, in a way. That was what we were sort of trying to do through words and through his personal momentum. He was a great walker and talker, as you know.
Yep.
He preferred that, and so you get a sense of restlessness, which is a lovely thing in cinema, because it has forward-going momentum rather than theatre itself. Theatre is something that you observe. Actually, it doesn't have the same. And I've done both. I love both, but it doesn't have the same immersive, kind of illogical impact on you, where you believe.
Well, and there's some
get lost in,
There's some very cinematic stuff. The scene where Jobs is being fired, it's almost like Citizen Kane, where the rain is pouring down, the angles, the lighting. It's extraordinarily dramatic and beautifully shot. That's your touch, I know.
Well, it's a lot of people. It's a kind of. I was saying, that scene was originally in a dressing room, and we thought, no, we want to get it out of the dressing room. And I was wandering around the theatre one day, and the cleaners were in, and they'd put all the chairs up on the tables to wax the floor, and it looked like one of those South Korean films, when a bunch of hoodlums meet each other and fight, and your last shot is that all the chairs have been made into firewood and line the floor, it's all been smashed to pieces. So we were looking always for those kind of images, and you would think, well, because it's only in 3 different spaces, surely you'd be limited in your choice of images, but actually you're not, and you can, and there is some intercutting with other spaces outside, like you say, with the boardroom and stuff like that. So actually there's lots of riches that you can exploit to make it feel cinematic, And then there's San Francisco, which you're showing at the moment,
Yeah, I'm really glad you used the actual locations, the Opera Hall, the San Francisco Opera Hall. You used the Flint Center where the original Mac was announced. You actually, these were the real spaces.
They were. He went back to the Flint for the third launch, for the launch of the iMac, but we didn't. We wanted a different space because we wanted 3 different spaces to do it. But yes, we were determined to shoot in San Francisco, and we shot in the garage. that actually, obviously, wasn't he, dreamt it all up. That was an extraordinary privilege.
That was the actual garage in San Jose?
That's the one.
Oh, my God.
It's just like, it's unbelievable. It feels, you know, and it will be a museum that one day.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's already a pilgrimage of people come to look at it and take photographs of it. You know, that from this tiny little stable, because it is, listen, this is the Bethlehem of the modern machine age. From this little stable came where we all are now. And in fact, how me and you are communicating right now. You know?
Yeah. I love the beginning. Now, by the way, one of Aaron Sorkin's best scripts. The words, the dialogue, is a master at his peak. Who was it thought of Arthur C. Clarke at the beginning? Was that you or was that Aaron?
It was my editor, actually, a guy called Elliot Graham. So I came in, you go in each day to the editing. And he said, he's a younger guy than me. So he's one of these guys who's always on the internet, when he should be editing, actually. But he's always on the internet. So I came in one day and he said, look at this. And it was amazing. It was Arthur C. Clarke. And it wasn't just amazing because it was obviously telling you that Jobs, as Woz argues, Jobs is in a lineage of people who dreamt this stuff up. Because sometimes you get the impression, because of the mythology of Steve Jobs, that he did it on his own, But actually he's in lineage. He's standing on the shoulders of giants. And Clarke was one of those dreamers as well. So you get that from it. But you also got a reminder, because there'll be lots of people watching the film who don't know this, that computers were hostile things. They were frightening. They lined the room with machinery and blinking lights. And they felt like they would eat you alive if because their power was growing so much. And suddenly then there's a guy who's saying, I want to take that and I want to put it literally in your bedroom. Because now we take these devices to bed with us, don't we? It's the last thing we look at and the first thing we look at in the morning. And people leave them on to monitor themselves while they sleep. So they become so intimate and the holders of such intimate information about us. Whereas previously they felt like something that you would never trust. And you only had anything to do with them because of, I don't know who was using them at that time. Accountants were kind of using them or whatever. But so that was a lovely double bonus with the Arthur C. Clarke, yeah. And I have to thank my editor, because one of the lessons of this film is that you really must thank the people that you really owe the stuff to.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, I saved this from the newspaper. This is an amazing... The marketing material for this film is amazing.
I love those pictures of them. I've seen those. Great. I haven't seen that thing you've got, but yeah. I saw the pictures. They got them on a billboard here. I love those pictures of their faces. You are like looking into their brains.
Yeah.
I think.
And it's, of course, it's Scully. Joanna Hoffman, who was the marketing director, who was behind the Mac launch, went with Steve to Next. Of course, this is Woz. And Michael Fassbender, who many are saying Academy Award-winning performance as Steve Jobs. It may not be the Jobs that I know, or the Jobs that you're doing such a risky thing, doing a movie about somebody. Many of the people in the movie, besides Mr. Jobs, are still alive. His family and friends are still alive. It's a very risky thing to do a movie about somebody who's so recent.
Yeah.
And maybe this isn't the Jobs that I knew, but I have to say, he creates a very compelling character. And the journey that he makes in this film is fascinating and does parallel a journey that Steve Jobs made. So I think it's true in that sense. It's true to the spirit.
I hope so. That was always the idea, that the essence, we were after a kind of sense of the essence. It's what Kubrick, a great filmmaker, used to say, that you trust. What you should trust is not the think of it, it's the feel of it.
Yeah.
And it feels accurate in some way. And I'm sure there's lots of people could say it isn't for all sorts of reasons, but it feels truthful to me. And there's many filters that you go through when you're making a film, where you put things under the microscope to actually say, is this true and honest? Because you don't want to be doing a film that's dishonest or inaccurate, or deeply offensive for incorrect reasons. You want it to be, you're in a very privileged position. You want to feel responsible about that. And it felt, and Michael's approach to the part was absolutely uncompromising. He would not He absolutely, he's not the kind of guy who's going to make him more likable because the studio want him to be have more likability.
Right.
And he's not the guy who's actually got, he's not going to do a hatchet job on the guy. And so he's going to try and find the truth in each scene. And if Sorkin has written it truthfully, then Michael will find that truth,
A little tip of the hat to Michael Stuhlbarg, who plays Andy Hertzfeld. Andy's an old friend, and it was uncanny. I felt like I was looking at Andy, even to the vocal mannerisms. It was uncanny.
He's a brilliant actor. Listen, you judge. I mean, you need your lead actors. We're lucky we got two of them in this. You got Michael Fassbender, who will be one of the big leading men. Kate Winslet, who is, incredible, wonderful.
Yeah.
But you judge your acting pool by your supporting characters, by your character actors, and you get Seth Rogen, he's not like Woz at all, except there's something about him he's very Woz-like.
He's adorable. Yeah.
Adorable. I mean, very decent and a lovely man as well, and a comedy genius, whereas Woz was an engineering genius. So there's something that fits perfectly there.
Woz thought he was a comedy genius, I have to point out. He thinks he's funny.
I've seen the footage of him. We watched the footage of him on the dancing thing.
Yeah, oh my God.
That was very strange. Cultural moment. Anyway, but yeah, Stuhlbarg is like one of the great actors. He is a really great actor. So to have his power in those scenes, his power of observation of Andy, and then he brings it in and puts it through the filter that is himself.
Yes, incredible.
It's wonderful to watch. Yeah.
I know you have to go, Mr. Boyle. I want to thank you for your time. I just have to ask you, what are you working on next?
Oh yeah, we're doing a sequel.
No.
To a film made 20 years ago called Trainspotting.
You know what? John said that, and I thought he was joking. That's awesome.
No, it's true. It's absolutely true, and it's the same four actors, and 20 years later,
wow.
And it'll be about time. They could obviously, when we first made the film, they were depicted as sort of involved in stuff that you can only really do in your 20s, and as we now know, you can't replicate that kind of behavior in your 40s and 50s. So that's where we're going to pick them up again. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I hope they've cleaned up that men's room since. Danny Boyle.
It was all chocolate,
Oh, thank God.
It smelled lovely. It was all chocolate, I promise.
It's been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for spending some time with us, and congratulations on already early success. Steve Jobs opens nationwide October 23rd, but early releases in New York City are doing very, very well.
Lovely. Thanks, Leo.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Bye.
Back to us.
That was a great interview.
He was a great guy. I really enjoyed talking to him. It's hard when you see a movie about people you know, and kind of were there when a lot of that stuff happened. No film is ever going to be true to that. And it's so, as he points out, it's very hard to make a movie about a genius, especially a complex person like Steve Jobs. I don't even know today how I would characterize Steve Jobs. He's a jerk, he's a great guy, he's a humorous. There were so many aspects to him. You really don't see all of those shades of Steve Jobs. You see the kind of taskmaster. But it's a good movie. I have mixed feelings about whether people should see it. If you see it, don't assume it's fact.
Yeah.
It's a movie. There's a lot more to be said about Steve Jobs, and that's the only thing I think his family and friends worry about, is that this will be the lasting picture people have of Steve.
Right, not the Ashton Kutcher movie.
Yeah, that wasn't so good either.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, no one thinks that Steve Jobs was a perfect person, but what he created is amazing.
What's missing in this movie is the lovable Steve Jobs, the Steve Jobs people wanted to work for. If that Steve Jobs in the movie were really the way Steve Jobs was, nobody would have ever worked for him. He was a complete jerk. But in fact, people loved him and loved working for him. So that, I don't know if they captured that part of his essence.
So you don't agree that he was a jerk and
he
just
could be
intense?
a jerk.
I mean, great leaders are like that's how they get people to love them often, and that's not. I mean, what he I don't know. It's interesting, and I don't think I'm giving any spoilers. It ends before the iPhone or before.
Oh yeah, long before.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I mean the personal computer changed our lives, and I mean the iPhone and the iPad have also changed our lives, but in very different ways.
Yeah.
I mean, like we were talking before there, and what he was saying, like the wearables, they're enmeshed in our lives in a way that I don't know is always good. Where you can't necessarily say that about the personal computer.
Right. I would say this is the first half of Steve Jobs' life. It ends in 1998. What happened after 1998 is arguably even more interesting than what happened before 1998. But it's certainly a big part of his journey. He makes some progress. I would love to see a sequel, 98 through 2000, whatever it would be, 2011, 2010. and see that part of his life, because that was really his shining moment that decade.
Yeah.
Before we do our mailbag, let's say hello to Harry McCracken. He just says no to notifications.
I'm Harry McCracken. I'm technology editor at Fast Company. And for the longest time, when I was setting up new apps on my phone and they asked if they could send me notifications, I would reflexively say yes, until I got dozens and dozens of apps sending me notifications, and it was really distracting and it was killing my battery. And I finally learned the smarter way to go about it is to reflexively say no, particularly for apps that really have no particular reason to contact you except when you want to use them. By doing that, when notifications do come through from those few apps I've said yes to, I know they're important, and I find that my battery lasts longer, and I also have less issues with apps sucking my data. That's my tip for today. I'm Harry McCracken, and you can follow me at fastcompany.com.
I just love Harry. He's such a sweetheart.
Yes.
It's time for the mailbag. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, pass me the mail. Whoa. Call it mailbox, I guess we should call it. Let's see. This one is for you.
Oh, really?
This one is for me.
Oh.
And I guess we're not going to plague her with the stew.
What? The what?
Never mind.
What?
What do you have there?
I have an email from Tyler from Scottsboro, Alabama. I have a 3-year-old daughter and a lot of pictures and video. I would like to make a digital scrapbook that I can insert photos and videos on each page. I would like to be able to update the scrapbook and then redistribute it to my family members.
What a great idea.
That is a great idea. So I have some ideas. You use Day One, right? A lot?
Yeah.
Day One?
It's meant for journaling, but you could absolutely
add
do that.
video. And there is they do have an Apple Watch app now too, so you can journal wherever. All you can say is like check into your location or say something.
Oh, but that's not a bad. I might have to go back to Day One.
But Day One, you can put photos, and I assume you can also put video, and then you can put them together and share them digitally, like put together a collage and share just those pages digitally with your friends. So I thought that was
I thought, this is more like a personal diary, but you're right. It could be a story of your life.
Right.
You know,
but you can make just certain pages that are just like about your 3-year-old daughter and then share those.
I wish I had thought of this. Actually, I wish it had been available when my kids were born, but it's available now. I know a parent who created a Gmail account for her newborn and started emailing pictures, videos, stories as letters to her newborn at this account. And I think the plan is when her kid turns 21, she'll say, you may not know this, but you have a Gmail account, and I think there's some mail for you. And then she goes in there and what a moment.
Yeah, and then she'll be like, Mom, you're not respecting my privacy.
Get out of my mail,
I don't want
Mom.
Google to know all
what
that.
What do you think you are?
Yeah, there's also Shutterfly, which, you can use that. I mean, Facebook, I'm assuming that people know about all those basic ones.
The Facebook timeline's pretty good. What was that program that I used to use? Was it Story?
Was it the Adobe one?
Adobe has a great one.
Yeah.
I know. You remind me that Microsoft has Sway.
Right, Sway. Yeah.
Which is a really great app that's on the iPhone and on the desktop. Will hold video and pictures and text. Sway would be a really great one, and that's free. So in other words, there are lots of ways to do it. The real trick is to keep up with it.
Right. Yes, I was going to make a digital scrapbook every year, and I did it for 2011.
Can I just point out, life conspires to make us feel like bad parents.
Right.
There's just no way. There's just no way. And then there's always the one parent who said, well, I created a Gmail account for my daughter when she's 21. And you and I, we're messy parents.
Right.
We're real parents.
Yes.
And our kids, well, we'll see. No, you can't. Everything makes you feel guilty, right? The world conspires to, like I go to Geek Dad. Have you ever been to Geek Dad?
Yeah, that really.
These guys, this one guy, he took a chicken and put it in some sort of dead chicken, obviously.
Okay.
It was like they'd eaten, they had it for dinner. He took the carcass, puts it in some sort of thing that takes all the flesh off, but the bones survive. Then he reassembles with his child, reassembles the chicken to make a dinosaur.
I think we talked about that on Jumping Monkeys, and that I remember that too on the podcast that we used to do, the show we used to do together. You can't, and you don't have to. You just do your best. But yeah, check out Day One or Sway, and
Sway would be would be perfect for this, and it's cross-platform. Here's a question from Dan. Are Windows 7 and Windows 10 equally vulnerable to Microsoft Windows spying? Can Windows spying be stopped in Windows 7 and Windows 10 PCs? If so, what are the steps to make it happen? What kind of user data is being targeted by Windows spying features? I think there is and I think some of this comes from sensationalist press. There is this sense that Windows 10 is filled with spy stuff and that Microsoft now has joined the dark side with Google to kind of get all your information. And I'm not sure that that's actually the case. A lot of what's going on is what they call the customer experience stuff, where it sends information, telemetry back about how you use Windows. It's anonymous information. But for instance, they know so many people never used Windows Media Center, so they said, we can stop making that. In fact, they stopped in 2009 because it turned out that very few people even opened it, and those who did opened it once. And so it was like 1/10 of 1% that actually used it more than once. Now, admittedly, if you're in the 1/10 of 1%, you're pissed off about this Windows Media Center thing, but that's for Microsoft, it's valuable information. It's that kind of information. You should understand that Microsoft gives you a unique identifier with Windows 10, and that it can be used for advertising. But a lot of what you read in the Microsoft, the widely circulated user agreement that scared people, is so that you can use Cortana. Cortana needs to know stuff so that she can tell you stuff, so that you can use Outlook Mail in the cloud. They have to be able to copy your mail in order for it to work in the cloud. A lot of these things seem scarier than they are. They're just part and parcel of using cloud services. The good news is on Windows 10, you can disable it all. There was an Ars Technica article that pointed out that even if you disable everything, that some stuff gets sent back to Microsoft, but at no point in that article did they say this is personally identifiable information or stuff you would worry about. They're just pointing out that your machine's still talking to Microsoft. Well, duh. Microsoft also pushed an update for Windows 7 and Windows 8 that was this customer experience monitor. You don't have to accept that update. You can uninstall that. I personally don't worry about Microsoft spying on me. A lot of what this is so that they can give you features that you really want. But if it does bother you, you can certainly strip down Microsoft Windows 10 to the point where it has a lot fewer convenience features, but also shares less information with Microsoft. Doesn't bother me, and you should be able to turn off, and you can. The best thing to do when you install Windows 10 is to not do the automatic, what do they call it?
Updates?
No. You have to do automatic updates. But when you first install it, express settings. Oh. Don't do express settings. Do the advanced settings and go through them one by one, and just don't turn on stuff that makes you uncomfortable. I don't think it's anything to worry about. I think unfortunately, there's a kind of a privacy hysteria that's going on, and a lot of media outlets, blogs and so forth, capitalize on that by writing, I think, scare headlines to get you to click.
Right.
And I don't think it's that scary. Having said that, Steve Gibson did say that he would never use Windows 10. It's I believe, flying turd. And the thing that bothered him was the privacy.
But you would not recommend that people stay on Windows 7. You say go to Windows 10.
Windows 10, as we know, is more secure, more robust, more reliable. I think a lot of the things that people hate about Windows 8 are fixed in Windows 10, including the start menu is back. I like Windows 10 a lot. I think it's a useful operating system. If you're worried, I might wait until the first big update to Windows 10 happens next month in November. That's when Windows 10 will really be as stable as it ought to be and as feature complete as it ought to be. Currently, Windows 10 is maybe a little bit premature, a little bit less reliable. Okay. Or is it a flying turd? I don't know. It's up to you. Steve won't use Windows 7 either. He really likes Windows XP, which I'm not sure I can recommend.
But how can he still use it? We shall not speak
do to ask questions.
Well, does he like create his own security updates? Or
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, then if you can do that, then keep using Windows XP. SP2 or what?
Stay on the XP.
Okay.
No, yes, you must use Service Pack 2 of XP.
Okay, good.
And then you can't run it as administrator. And you shouldn't use Internet Explorer. You should probably use Chrome or Firefox.
And you should wear a foil hat and stay locked in your basement.
I feel like you can really overdo this privacy thing. Are you worried about privacy?
It's not. I try not to be. And I totally agree with you with those headlines. I do think, that's what the news does.
Yeah.
They want to scare you. That's how it works.
Yeah, it is how it works. I talked to my mom, and She says, the world is ending. I said, Mom, stop watching CNN. It is not. I have it on good authority.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be
No.
fine.
I mean, I think people should go through their privacy settings. They
Well, you
shouldn't
should
just
know what
let,
it is.
you should know these things, but yeah.
The best way to be private, stay off the internet.
Mm-hmm. Don't do that.
Hey, you're great. I
You're
should watch
great.
TN2 more often, Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday,
4
4
p.m.
p.m.
Pacific.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we do another show together that you can't watch because you're doing it, iOS Today.
I never watch iOS Today. But I do love that show. It's
Yes.
a lot of fun. We do that on Mondays after Triangulation, about 12:30 or 1 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah.
And then i5 for the iPhone, which is produced in a secret laboratory,
In a tiny studio in the basement.
but released at some point.
Wednesdays.
Okay.
Yes, Wednesdays around 5. Mm-hmm.
Megan Maroney, I love that outfit on
Thank
you. Do you get to keep the jacket?
I don't know. Do I get to keep the jacket
It looks
and
pretty
hat?
good on
Okay,
you.
I will. I'll
The
wear
hat,
it
I'm
every
not so
day.
sure. As for me, look for me in a time machine DeLorean driving down the streets in your neck of the woods with 1.21 gigawatts of power. Back to the future, Marty. We'll see you next time on the new Screensavers. Bye-bye.